Hello everyone, welcome to Michigan Man MTG, and today we're going to talk about the best common cards for Standard from Marvel Spider-Man. So before we get started, remember to do all the YouTube stuff, remember to like and subscribe to get further content like this throughout Marvel Spider-Man season and beyond. And we'll be getting into Avatar probably in the next couple of weeks because that seems to be the way that Wizards of the Coast is going with previews, that we barely get started with the set before the next set's previews come out. So stay tuned for those, and we'll be diving in to Avatar, The Last Airbender, over the next month or so. Alright, so let's take a look at the best commons for Standard. So I only have 8 of them, and I think they all do something that leads me to believe that they're going to see play. So first is Gallant Citizen, and it's a green-white hybrid mana, and it's 2 mana. Human Citizen, 1/1, and when this creature enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And we've seen cards similar to this in the past, and the fact that this is in green gives green a little bit of card draw, which I really like. So that's why I've got it at number 8, because I feel like white decks will use it, and green getting access to some card draw here, I think makes it worth it in green decks as well. At number 7, I've got Twip, and it's a white mana. Instant, target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. And if it's a spider, you gain 2 life. And I'm not even worried about the gaining 2 life because it's a spider. This is a card that probably fits in the Leyline deck that's in red. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of it lately, but if that deck went to Boros colors, I could see this as a great card in that deck because it's a single target and it gives flying on top of the +2/+2, and I think that's going to make it more than worthwhile for deck builders to at least give that deck a try in Standard. At number 6, I've got Skyward Spider, hybrid white-blue mana, Spider Human Hero, 2/2 with Ward 2. This creature has flying as long as it's modified, so you get a +1/+1 counter on it or something else. Okay, it's going to be a creature that's a 2/2 for flying with Ward 2. And again, just in Standard, that's just a good rate. And if we do have a Flyers deck in Standard, it's probably going to be in Azorius colors. I think this would fit well into that deck, again, as long as we can get a +1/+1 counter on it. At number 5, I've got Spider-Man Web Slinger for 2 and a white mana, legendary creature, Spider Human Hero, and a 3/3. With web slinging of a single white mana. You may cast this spell for 1 white mana if you also return a tapped creature you control to its owner's hands. So 1 mana, 3/3. Sign me up. This is going to see play. And it's a common, so for those of you who are commander players, this gives us another legendary common that you can play as your commander. But I think this is going to see Standard play because the ability to play this just for 1 mana. So maybe you're playing it in a deck where you've got a lot of low cost cards, and maybe on turn 1 you play a flyer so that way you can attack with it, do some damage, and then after your combat phase, then you go ahead and cast Spider-Man Web Slinger for that 1 white mana. You bring it back to your hand, and then you can just recast it. So I think that's the kind of play pattern we're going to see with this. And having a 3/3 on turn 2, that's really powerful in Standard. And it puts you ahead in the game. So that's why I like Spider-Man Web Slinger. At number 4, I've got Spectacular Tactics for 1 and a white mana. You get an instant, and you get to choose 1. You can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It also gains hexproof until the end of the turn, or destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. We've seen different combinations of this over the last several years where you've got, hey, destroy a creature with power 4 or greater, but it's usually the other option is destroy an enchantment. I really like the fact that this provides you with some offensive capability as well, getting a +1/+1 counter on a creature, giving it hexproof to defeat your opponent's removal spell. I really feel like that's going to be good enough in Standard to see play. At number 3, I've got Amazing Acrobats for 1 and 2 blue mana, you get an instant, and you get to choose one or both, counter target spell, or tap 1 or 2 target creatures. This is the first time, on a counter spell, we've got another relevant ability. So you're playing this, and you're playing a blue deck, but you want to have a counter spell or something in your deck. I think this is a one that is certainly going to be playable because you can also tap down your opponent's creatures. So your opponent plays something, and this is a spell you want to counter, so you counter it, but then you also go ahead and tap down a couple of your opponent's creatures at the same time, so maybe they don't get to attack this turn, or it clears the way for you to attack on the next turn, and because of that, I've got it at number 3. Alright, at number 2, I've got Unstable Experiment for 1 and a blue mana. You get an instant. Target player draws a card. You're going to target yourself with that, by the way, not your opponent most likely. And then up to 1 target creature you control connive. So this is 2 mana, draw 2 cards, and discard a card. And again, we've got the Mayhem cards already that we've been talking about throughout the course of the previews. And if you're discarding one of those, and you're playing this on turn 4 or 5, so you're seeing 2 additional cards, and then you're able to hopefully discard a Mayhem card, and then you can just cast it from the graveyard. And because of that, I think this is going to see play all over Standard. I would put this, in almost any blue deck I would be playing, because I get to see 2 cards. Even though I'm only going to get to keep one of them, I get 2 cards, and I get a lot of choice there. All right, my number 1 card is Spider Manifestation for 1 and a red or green mana. You get a Spider Avatar with reach. That's a 2/2 and taps for green or red mana. And whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, untap this creature. We already have right now in Standard the Temur Battlecrier deck, which I think this is a perfect card for, because you're casting a bunch of spells that are mana value 4 or greater in that deck already, and this is just a way of getting extra mana. You cast one of those creatures because you've been able to reduce the cost in other ways, and then you get to untap this after you've tapped it for mana to help cast that card. So I think this is going to be a very interesting card in Standard over the next 3 years as we get to play with it, because that ability to cast higher power spells, higher mana value spells, and then not only be able to use Spider Manifestation's mana ability to help cast them, but then get it back. And because of that, I've got it as my number 1 common from Marvel's Spider-Man. Thanks for staying to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed my preview series and also my list of the best cards in my mind for Standard from Marvel's Spider-Man. So thanks again for staying to the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one.